folks, and welcome back to Bear Clan's Hiking Sedona podcast. Today is episode 18. I'm not going to talk about a hike per se. What I'm going to talk about a little bit is the critters that we have here. Folks all over the place ask me, especially if they're doing a tour with me on the Segway or if they're just seeing me out on a trail, they wonder what kind of animals we have. What is the wildlife here in Sedona like? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just run through a quick list of alphabetically organized critter names. And then I'll talk about a few of them that need to be expressed a little bit individually as we go. So first and foremost, folks, badgers are not as common in Sedona as everybody would believe. They do come out every once in a while. I have not heard in the last 6 years or so of anybody having a badger incident or anything. We do have black bear. I personally have seen 2 black bear on the trail. I was about 50 feet away from one about maybe 6 years ago on one of the trails in the back canyons, and thankfully they're not carnivores by nature. They are herbivores. They love to eat berries, fruits, nuts, that kind of thing. So you're not going to really see too many black bears being aggressive. However, don't underestimate nature. They can always do what they need to do when they need to do it, especially if they have their babies. If you're down by the creek area and you're near the water a lot, you're probably going to see some beaver. Bobcats are very prominent. We see them often. I see a lot of tracks out in the hikes in Sedona. I see a lot of bobcat tracks and a lot of bobcat scat as well. The cottontail rabbits are out here, little puffy white tail and everything. Coyotes, we have many coyotes. In fact, you might find a morning, if you're here for a couple of days, you might wake up in the morning and hear coyotes howling off in the distance. I do see them on occasion through hikes, but I've also seen them during Segway tours and pack of 5 run right across the street, so anything's possible. I mean, folks, we're really in the middle of national forest, and Sedona's a tiny little town, even though it's a city. These animals have only known to walk where we live, so it's not surprising to see these things happen. Mule deer. We have a lot of mule deer here that are also very common and all over the place. We have gray and red fox. We also sometimes will have elk out here. Elk usually like the higher elevations, 6,000 feet and above, but just yesterday I was on a hike and I was roughly around 4,200 feet of elevation and saw some elk tracks and some elk scat. They make their way into wherever they need food. We do have jackrabbit, which is just a big version of the cottontails. They got these giant hind quarters, and they run more like a dog than they do a bunny, and their ears are insanely long. Of course, we have these things called the javelina. Javelina is spelled Javelina. Its natural name is collared peccary, and we'll talk about that one a little bit at the end of this list. We do on occasion have mountain lion roaming around. The good thing is mountain lion have usually about 100-mile radius territory, so if we do see them on one day, we may not see them for another 6 months. But it's possible because this is nature. River otters are out. We do have porcupine. I don't see too many porcupines, to be honest with you, but they are out and they are part of the Sedona area. Now we have this thing called a pronghorn. Pronghorn basically, folks, is like a gazelle or an impala. They're very orange in color. Their antlers, unlike deer, will go almost straight up from their skull, straight up and look like the letter F backwards, depending on which angle you're looking at them. We have raccoons, of course. We can't have garbage cans without having raccoons. We do have what is called a ringtail cat. Ringtail cat is just, I'd say it's more like a fox cat mixed together with a little bit of raccoon. The tail is very patterned like in lines, kind of like a zebra would be. So the tail is puffy, but sometimes not super puffy. So it's almost like a fox. I have not seen any sheep, bighorn sheep or anything like that, naturally. They're more than likely going to be up in Flagstaff or somewhere on the Mogollon Rim, but not really in the Sedona area. I don't think we have enough food for their likings. We do have skunks, of course. What place doesn't? And, of course, squirrels. We have ground squirrels, ring-tailed squirrels, and gray squirrels. We also have, in the past, had wolves running wild, but I don't think we've had one reported for at least a decade. I'm sure some people might have some other information on that, but I don't recall hearing about an actual wolf in nature living here in Sedona. We do have several that are in captivity from people that are taking care of the wolves, so they are out and about. As far as birds, we're going to have a lot of common birds here, which is surprising. A lot of people think we're going to have nothing but exotic or different birds, but there's a lot that are very similar here as they are in the northern part of the United States. We do have blackbirds, bluebirds, we have doves. We on occasion will see bald eagles, especially up in the creek. We do have peregrine falcons, the Cooper's hawk, the red-tailed hawk, the great blue heron. We'll see them often. In fact, I have a lot of friends that have them dipping in the waters right behind their houses. We do see some meadowlark. I have not really seen a lot, but I do see them tend to be over by wide open parking lots, picking up a lot of the scraps. We might see some great horned owls or the western burrowing owls. Plenty of quail, folks. Plenty of quail roaming around. In fact, it's cute enough to see them when they have their babies crossing the street. It's just like the partridge family. We do have the American robins, the towhee. We do have wild turkey, but I've not seen any in Sedona in over a decade. So, maybe on the outskirts. You probably will see it more in the Cottonwood area, the Camp Verde area. Probably just not enough food supply for them in the Sedona area. Turkey vultures are all over the place, especially during the summer. You'll see them flying a lot with the ravens, as well as the red-tailed hawks. And that's essentially the quick list of the critters, birds, types of animals that we have. Now I'm going to talk a little bit and focus more on the javelina for a little bit. The javelina is considered by most folks a rodent or a pig. But if you do your research on the javelina, it's actually a variety of creature that's on its own. It's part of what is called the Tsuidae family, and it's considered a collared peccary. Now, if you do research on the peccary, you're going to actually notice that it actually is more of akin to the hippopotamus through quote-unquote science genetics. But at the same time, folks, if you look at this thing, if you see this thing or even find a picture of it, you're going to say pig. And I find it hard-pressed to call it anything other than a pig, because if you do the eye test, meaning if you lined up a wild boar, wild pig, and a javelina side by side, you'd be saying, yeah, they're pigs. They have hooves like pigs, they're snorting like pigs, they grunt like pigs, they walk like pigs, they squeal like pigs a little bit, they kind of scream a little bit. They also kind of sound like a bear when they grunt. They eat like pigs as well, but they are not considered a pig by science. So it's one of those things where you get to make up your own mind and decide on your own where you want to classify that javelina. And again, the spelling for javelina is Javelina. Now, there are some animals that I mentioned on the list that are pretty dangerous. Of course, the mountain lion probably is the number one dangerous animal that's out there. People ask if I ever see them, and I say if I see them, it's probably the wrong thing to do. Usually mountain lions aren't seen. They're very sneaky. They are very hidden. And if they are seen, it's either by somebody who's watching them attack an animal, and they usually attack the animal on the back of the neck. So their job is to jump on them from behind. So if you're unfortunate enough to be close enough to see a mountain lion attacking an animal, you might want to just let it kill that prey and get the heck out of there. With that, we also have coyote, but they're only as fearsome as their pack allows them to be and as their temperament allows. So if they've been eating well, they're not going to really give us too much of a concern. But if there's a bad season for rabbits or the baby javelinas aren't in abundance, then the coyotes might tend to, circle into town more often. Like I said before, the black bear are not something that need to be considered dangerous, but if any animal has its babies with them, they are all dangerous. And you should not be getting any closer than a zoom lens, telephoto zoom lens, to any animal that has its babies. And folks, I have seen this enough out on the trails, people that are visiting Sedona and they look at those javelinas and they're just saying, my gosh, how amazing is that? Let me get closer to take a picture. I'm here to tell you folks, javelinas can run up to about 24 miles an hour. They do not care for humans. They have poor eyesight, so they're very skittish. If they can see you, you are definitely too close. And remember, almost 24-mile-an-hour sprinters. There may be some other wild animals that are out there. We do have roadrunners out here, folks, which is unbelievable. If you ever get a chance to see a roadrunner running, it will remind you exactly of the cartoon. You will not be able to see its feet moving because they are so fast on their feet. I think they can run somewhere around 20 up to 26 miles per hour, something like that. And for them, they like to stay on the flats. So you're not going to see them on the hiking trails really in Sedona. You'll probably see them on the west end of Sedona where it starts getting flat towards the Cottonwood area. And you might see them in abundance on most of the main forest roads that are out there, like the 525 or the 89B. So there's something to see when you get a chance to see a roadrunner, especially when they're hauling butt to catch a prey. They fly very seldom because in their mind, they have the ability to outrun just about everything from the ground. But if they're spooked, they'll probably bolt out with their wings, fly a little bit, but then they'll jump down and just hightail it on their feet. So it's kind of impressive. So ultimately, folks, that's a list of the critters that we have, the ones that you need to be worried about. Ultimately, like I said earlier, if anything has babies, stay away. Animals are designed to protect themselves from humans, from predators, so they have this innate ability to find the right way to attack. And just because it looks cute does not mean it's not going to rip into you if it has an opportunity to protect its family. So be safe by all means. Thank you very much, folks. I'm going to be producing another podcast shortly about the venomous kind of creatures that we have out here, such as the snakes, scorpions, and the spiders of sorts. So stay tuned for that. Be seeing you on the next podcast, folks. God bless you. Stay safe. See you on the rocks. Thank you again for listening in today, everybody. Your time and energy is greatly appreciated. Please feel free to download these episodes, favorite them, share them, and even visit my YouTube channel, Yava-Coco Productions, for all of my podcasts with their playlists as well, and for some insanely cool videos of Sedona from my hikes or just from other connections that I've had. That all helps me continue to bring you more exciting podcasts about hiking Sedona. For those of you wanting to dig in a little deeper, maybe you're struggling with some inner issues or are in recovery from addictions or just looking for inspirational discussions about healing, check out my other podcasts on your favorite podcast players. Things like Path to Recovery or Cognitive Awareness with a Touch of God or Star Wars: The Bear Awakens. Yeah, I actually do a podcast about that. It's a little deeper than just a Star Wars podcast, folks. It gets into a little more connecting with the concept of what is the Force and what is it compared to the God consciousness. We're just here to help, and what we offer is almost always free. Thank you, God bless you, and hope to see you on the rocks.